whatever this podcast is going to be called, tentatively pilot episode number 1. I am your host, WhateverMedia, aka the Rat Lord, and today we have the Arbiter of Ashes, Bane, Mr. MajorAimless, the HCSSF king himself, and the number 1 bald man on North America, the whole continent.
True. Like on the entire continent.
Yeah.
A lot of bald men on North America.
Well, that's fine. Do all the bald
but
men
I am
work
bald
out?
by choice. So bald by choice. So that's an important part too.
Bald by choice, and you work out more than all of them. So that lets you like you're ready to
just
take
making
on
up for
every
lost
one
time,
of them.
baby. I'm just making up for lost time.
Oh man,
I got a lot of pizzas to work off.
Hey, brother, me too, including lunch. You know what I mean? So, well, we're here to chat about the most important thing in our lives besides our significant others, which is Path of Exile 2. So, we have received a wonderful 0.5 announcement trailer teaser from GGG, as Death by Gluten in chat earlier called it reverse 9/11, as the tower was rising from the ground. Might have to cut that. We'll see how it goes. But what are...
Well, there goes the YouTube monetization.
Well, I don't have enough. We don't got enough going on there to get monetized on YouTube anyway. It's
fine. Okay, so it's not a big...
we're pure Twitch paycheck here, dude.
Oh, keep it edgy then. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Bold start. That's how we do it. So I guess my first question is going to be, what was your first impression on the trailer? Because mine, I would say, I was listening to your reaction driving home from work, and then I heard May 29th, and then everything went black. I started hearing, I had tinnitus in my ears. I had Vietnam, like Apache helicopters in the background. So
yeah, I mean, I think we were all depressed on the May 29th, but it's like I said, if that's what GGG needs, I believe in them. If that's what they tell me we got to do, that's what we got to do. My impressions were pretty positive. I mean, it's a teaser, right? There's we're dissecting frame by frame to try and get a little bit of info here, but it looks sick. It looks like precursors, right? It looks like a map revamp, like an atlas revamp. Like it definitely looks like the land is like the atlas, and then the walls are like coming up in the atlas and turning it into some kind of new end game, which I thought was kind of a cool way to show it. And then I don't know, we were contemplating maybe the tower is going up, like it looked like reverse delve or something, like tower delve, we're going up instead of down. Dude. Yeah, something like that. So but yeah, no, I mean, overall excited. We watched it like 20 times at least. The 29th thing, again, disappointing,
Yeah.
Disappointing, but we've already waited it would have been 5 months, so what's 6, right? Like at the end of the day, GGG delivers good shit. And if they tell me I got to sit back and wait a little bit longer, then I got to sit back and wait a little longer.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I want them to cook, and I'm excited to see what's going on. I'm confident. One of my biggest predictions for it is that rather than towers, we're gonna get walls. You know what I mean? So we're just gonna explore around on walls to gain visibility. So it'll be good.
We'll have the nodes that connect the waystones now. Like the lines will just be tower walls. Yeah, and we'll just, instead of doing the waystones, we'll be running the wall itself in between, bro.
Oh, it's gonna be perfect. It'll be good. So we're going from Temple League in 0.4 to Temple Run on the walls in 0.5. I think that's a fair assumption, right?
I think they're gonna drop a titanium rod from orbit on Temple.
Do you think? Okay, let's tangent slightly.
Okay.
We know that they have said they want everything in early access to go core, right? However, we have recently heard a lot of statements that have turned out to be slightly not the case. So Do you think they're going to nuke it from orbit? Do you think Temple's going core in 05, or do you think it needs time?
I think it's going core, yeah, because it's a waste of resources for it to not go core. I think any league mechanic they develop in early access, and you've kind of said this from the beginning, anything they develop in early access, it would be an absolute massive waste of time and resources for that not to be a core mechanic. The thing that they need right now is core mechanics, right? The game needs more stuff to do. So having a league that they put something in and then take it out makes zero sense as far as early access is concerned. I think that the thing about Temple is like it's just Snake, really, because like you can play Temple without doing the Snake strats, and you can still juice your Temple to some degree, and killing like Architect and killing Aziri can be, you know, pretty decent, at least in SSF. But like Snake just like makes the rest of the game kind of non-existent. So they're gonna have to do something massive there. I don't know, maybe they delete locks from the game where you can't lock the rooms anymore or something, and you can't, you know, you wouldn't really be able to build like, you know, these 77 room snakes at that point, maybe something like that. But I think there's gonna be a massive adjustment to it because it's too, you know, on the one side it's harmful for the game just because of the way it is. Now I think what Temple and Snake in particular kind of shows is like how starved for that dopamine hit the community is for PoE2, because that's why everyone's playing it, right? It was because there's nowhere else you can get that dopamine hit except for Snake Temple. And even then, all you're really getting is currency because, you know, like there's not a lot of good uniques or anything like that. Like you're just farming divine orbs, hoping to, you know, for that mirror hit. So you can say, look, mom, I did it. But that's just like a whole different thing, is the dopamine starve that we are right now. But yeah, I think they have to significantly adjust it to make it, because right now, like, there's some people like me and you know out there that are just playing maps and, you know, doing a little temple here and there, and then 98% of everyone else that's still playing is running like massive juice temple 24/7, right? Maps don't even, they go into maps, they run and they do the beacon and then they leave. They don't even kill the fucking boss, like
Right.
so it's just kind of deleting the rest of the game, you know. So they have to do something to balance it a little better than that.
Yeah, it's really, it is interesting to me, and my perspective might be different because I never got to the point that I was juicing Temple. Like I was just I'm gonna place the rooms and level them up where I see fit, and I mainly wanted to fight at Ziri, right? So I was just like rushing straight there and doing that. And I definitely got it to a point that I was like every other temple I was able to fight at Ziri, which felt good. But I think that I think you're right. The snaking is the key problem for the temple. So I was thinking that they remove locks, like you said. But I was also thinking maybe to counterbalance slightly the destabilization overall needs to be worked on a little bit. Because I know that they tuned it down a good bit, but I'm curious where that would need to land if you couldn't lock rooms. Because otherwise people, what point is there for me to upgrade rooms to level 3 when there's a 20% chance that it's going to get deleted? So maybe if it was, I mean, like going down a level.
Yeah, I see what you're saying with, you know, trying to keep the level 3 rooms encouraged. I guess it's just right now that, you know, you can't snake without locking the rooms at all. So that's you know, a quick fix idea, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe not the best, you know, way to fix it, but just a quick fix idea. But yeah, you know, I don't know the exact. I haven't gone hard down the temple snaking rabbit hole either, so I don't know the exact formula. Like, oh, if you know, destabilize it, it always deletes this room or this. You know what I mean? I don't know if there's a way to weight it or anything like that. I think maybe if they did something where they removed the lock so that snaking wasn't as viable or wasn't really viable at all, maybe it would be something where they would make it a little easier to get some of those rooms to level 3, or a little more common, so that, you know, you could actually do it a little more often and still lose them and not feel like, oh, okay, well, there goes 3 weeks of work, right? Trying to get, you know, the limb room for attack speed on my hand or whatever. So maybe something like that where they just make it a little bit easier to do, and then that way it could still enable that. Because like you said, killing Ziri, I found that really fun. I found killing the Architect really fun.
Yep.
The specialty rooms that he gives really rewarding in SSF. So
Yeah, and that's an important note for, I guess, anybody listening, is that Major is HCSSF exclusive. I am HCSSF main, sometimes league starting softcore SSF just to like learn new stuff like that. But we really don't do trade very much. And I know that that's a large majority of the player base is trade, and that's how things are balanced around. So we weren't nearly as affected as everybody with the economy issues that came from Temple and Holton glitch or whatever exploit, whatever you want to call it. We weren't affected by that at all. But we were able to use it to get really cool loot. Major was able to get, you got a headhunter from one of the unique rooms. You got, was it Calandra's?
I got headhunter. I did get a Calandra's touch. I got like Boots of Ulor, the hammer, the two-handed temple hammer or shrine hammer, which are pretty, they're not, again, we don't, we're not trading out there, so it's pretty rare on SSF. I think that might be the first, this might be the first time I've gotten that hammer. I think that hammer may went in, it either went in last league or 2 leagues ago. This may be the 3rd league that's in, but first time I've gotten that. There were several other items too, because the cool thing about the Architect is it seems like it does have a higher chance to hit those like tier 0 unique rooms or whatever you want to call it. Because I got an Ashamentus from Architect as well.
Aspirational,
yeah, so some pretty rare loot, especially on the SSF front. Obviously, if you're playing trade, you're like, oh, I can buy Ashamentus for 2 exalts or whatever it is. But it's kind of crazy how different it is of a game between like trade and SSF. It's like it's literally worlds apart. Same game, but it's just totally different play style.
Yeah. It's crazy because the temple rooms, I didn't get anything super crazy unique wise from the actual rooms. I think I got a Rislatha's from one of the rooms at one point. But then in a completely unjuiced temple, I'm pretty sure it was either a white or a magic mob in a hallway. I just dropped a headhunter naturally. And so I was like, well, that's kind of spooky. Because 24 hours prior to that, I'm running a generic logbook and I drop another headhunter from a chest. So I had 2 in 24 hours in SSF. I've never dropped a headhunter ever in 2,000 hours of PoE2.
Somebody have to look in that client.
That's what I'm saying. I guess just like streamer client for 0.4. Because other than that, I got lucky and got a headhunter from Nameless Seer in 0.2 in HCSSF, which was wild.
I remember Exile, Exile again, they do the clip montages, right? My headhunter clip was on there, and that was so funny, dude, because it was like, I think it was like maybe King Konger that they had like his clip in front of mine, and his clip was literally like a headhunter drop. It was like, oh, there's my 3rd headhunter today or something like that.
Right.
And then it immediately after that is me seeing a headhunter and an Architect. I'm like, I'll just lose my fucking mind. Dude. Yeah, dude. Just lose my mind. So no, the temple juice is insane, right? Like people were pulling out multiple headhunters a day, like a mirror a day, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's just maybe, and that's what I'm curious about, is how bad, because I was thinking about this the other day. I'm tangenting a little bit here. We're going to get back on topic soon.
It's a Yap Fest.
Yeah, exactly. On top of the 0.5 issues that this is how we're bringing it back. Listen, trust. On top of the existing community sentiment around like 0.5 delays and stuff like that, and how much of a crazy target GGG is going to have to hit. Like they're going to have to meet some very lofty expectations. I'm worried how it's going to feel also, in addition to that, coming off the back of everyone's dopamine receptors getting completely fried from Temple. Like whatever new league mechanic they put in the game, they completely rework the end game. Everybody's going to go, where's the loot? There's no loot. Where's the loot?
I guess the counter to that is, because I first see that as well, but I think there's a way to hard counter that from GGG that they need to do anyway. And that is the reason. Okay, so if you go to, like I said a little bit ago, when you're doing Temple, your dopamine is just it's just currency, right?
Mhm.
Oh, I dropped a div, I dropped a mirror, I dropped a div, I dropped a mirror. And the uniques that drop, there's like, if there's 200 uniques in the game that can drop in Temple, there's 5 of them that are, worth that you're excited that drop, right? So in my mind, if we actually have like good loot, good uniques, good drops, like, because right now it just feels like there's just not a lot that drops that you actually get excited about, I guess is what
Mhm.
I'm trying to say. And so it's like, okay, if they pull the plug on that dopamine hit, but then when you're actually playing maps, like, you're occasionally dropping stuff that is actually like good and, oh shit, here we go, whether it's unique or maybe they put in div cards or whatever it is. But right now, I feel like there's an absolute lack of just dopamine hits throughout the game. And so that's why this temple thing is going crazy, because people, like, we play an ARPG for a few reasons, right? You want to see your character go from a 0 to a hero, right?
Mhm.
That character progression, that player power coming online, and you want that dopamine gamba hit, right? Like,
Mhm.
I just killed this guy. I've killed him 10 times before, but this time he dropped it, right? Like, those are the biggest 2 things, right? And then, like, builds and, like, it kind of subs off from there, but those are kind of where it starts. And so we don't have a lot of those dopamine drop hits. They're just very, very few and far between. And I think just cranking that up, getting some new stuff in there that's actually like good that people want, that's going to help a lot. So I think there's definitely going to be some shell shock when Temple, because there's no way that Temple stays the way it is. I haven't heard a single person like that says, "Oh yeah, they're not going to touch Temple," right? Like, the Temple's getting hit.
Yeah.
So I think that GGG probably understands that too better than anyone, right? They're the one that's kind of got us into this addiction in the first place over the years,
Mhm.
or at least fed it more than pretty much everyone else. So, they have to kind of know that there's going to be some blowback from that. And I think, again, if they can just get better overall loot in the game, then maybe we don't feel that as much. Maybe people don't feel that as much because they're actually happy and excited about the stuff that they are getting, right? Because I don't think we have that right now.
Yeah. I 1000% agree. Yeah, we need more of the dopamine hits. My big thing I really want to see is bossing. Like, I want targeted, like you said, some drops that we can go, oh shit, I killed him for the 10th time and he dropped it this time.
Yep.
There's one boss like in
Well,
maps that's like that, and then you have Adziri, and then you have Kulmak in the well. But you have Arbiter Vash is the only
yeah.
one you're getting targeted maps. So we have 3 bosses in the entire end game in that way. Well, I guess you have like Zesh and stuff like that too with those league mechanics. But even then, unless you're on trade and you're just buying like splinters and stuff, you're fighting them pretty few and far in between. Unless you really kind of stockpile for it. I just want to see more boss options in that way.
There's not a lot of good boss loot for sure. And we had more at the beginning, and then a lot of it got nerfed from to nerf like overperforming builds back in the day, and then 0-2 and all that came out and kind of changed the way they were going with it. And I feel like none of it's gotten raised back up since then.
Mhm.
It's like, everything was overperforming, and then they nerf hammered it, and then the community was like, hey, what the hell? Now nothing's fun. And so, like, yeah, you're right. Changed a lot of stuff, but then, like, yeah, there's a lot of things that never got touched again. And I always kind of attribute it to, like, well, they have to know, and they have to just, like, it has to be in the plans, like, hey, this needs to be fixed, but why fix it now when 8 months from now we're gonna be doing this thing that's gonna be relative to it, or so to speak. It's kind of I'm probably just too much on the copium GGG train, and whatever. But
Nah.
that to me, they've earned it, man. They've always done such good work. So it's like, yeah, I'm a little glazed on the GGG, but I don't think
Yeah.
it's a bad thing. I think they're an amazing company. I think honestly, they're probably about the best gaming company in existence right now. Like, they're not perfect. No one is. We're all messed up,
Mhm.
but Like they actually communicate with their audience, they talk to their community, they listen to their community, and they do things that their community wants to see. And that's just really rare in a game, you know? So
Yeah. That's I was kind of talking earlier today with our boy Blazeworks TV on that. We were discussing that, and we were talking about why this certain issue about like timelines and stuff felt so bad for a lot of people. And the way, because like you said, we have GGG is the best. Like, sure, we're glazers, we're chills, whatever you call us, whatever, but they are legitimately, they make some of the best games, period, and their communication is some of the best. But I think that is why these situations where we make these broad statements hurts that much more, because when they make a statement, you believe them and you trust them
well, it's
because
not
you're
the
like,
first
oh, I've
time
seen it.
too, right?
Yeah.
They told us 1 year on EA.
Right. Yeah. And then we got some, they said, oops, we need to move some people around, but now PoE1's got the dedicated team and we got this, and we're going to stick to these strict timelines. And then, we promised the end-game patch, so we got to push it back, which let them cook. I'm excited for it. But I think that's why a lot of people were struggling with it, is because like other game companies were used to them either not telling us the truth or not talking at all. And so
I think a lot of it too is like, I mean, I'm not, I never throw shade against like any gaming company or any other game. Like, the reality is like anyone making an ARPG that's not absolutely like trying to screw people over and like take their money for nothing. I love, because I love to see people in the space and like work in the space and pushing ARPGs. But like at the end of the day, you know what I mean? Like it's GGG and then what, right? Like who's next up to the plate right now? Diablo. It's a different kind of game.
6 months ago, I would have said 11th hour games with Last Epoch, but
yeah,
I believe you guys, but I'm gonna believe you from over here. I'm gonna watch you guys from a distance.
yeah. I think let's say what I'm saying with that is like, I guess what I'm trying to feed into with the fact that there's not a lot of other ones out there is that we're all just chomping at the bit, I guess. We just want it. And I think the fact of the matter is, people might talk trash or whatever, but I don't think there's really anyone out there that doesn't think that GGG is going to like not pull this off, right? Like maybe it takes longer than we originally expected, but I don't think there's anyone that actually believes that GGG is not like, I mean, if you just log into PoE2, ignore the end game and all that, like, okay, it's not cooked yet, but play it. Look at the bones of the game. Like, it's insanely amazing what they've done with it already. So I think a lot of the disappointment is just the fact that like we just want to play the damn thing. We want
Right.
to we want our leagues to be on a good cycle, right? We want, like, let's go. We're here, we're ready. We want to go. I think that's a lot of it, and then it devolves from there, right? Broken promises, whatever you want to call it. At the end of the day, man, I've been gaming for so long and I've had so many gaming companies tell me it's going to be such and such date and then it's not, that I think I'm just like immune to it at this point, right? Like there's the initial reaction of the 29th, and then it's like, okay, here we are. It is what it is. It sucks that they weren't able to do the 4-month thing, because yeah, it sucks that, when you tell your community something and you don't deliver on it, it's not a good look for sure. And they know that, it's not, I guarantee you that no one there was like, now let's make sure we don't do the 4 months. We want to really piss them off,
Yeah.
Like everyone there was doing everything they could to get it there. And at some point, 3 months in, Jonathan looked at Mark and said, we can't make it happen. You know what I mean? Like, or Mark looked at Jonathan, or Bill looked at Jimmy, or whatever. But someone said, we're not going to be able to get what we need to have in for this patch is not going to be done in 4 months. We have to delay, right? And at the end of the day, I want the best game possible. If that means it's delayed, okay, it's delayed. I will bitch and moan, but I still love GGG, and I will be right here when 0.5 releases.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm already already got that planned time off, dude. We're ready to go.
I know you were excited because you were worried you might not even get to play on on release weekend, right? So it actually kind of worked out a little better for you.
Yeah, I was stressed, dude, because I was like, all right, it's
I
gonna
know
be
you were.
it's gonna be the 1st. If it's the 8th, that really sucks.
Yeah.
If it's the 15th, that sucks less, but it still sucks. And then they said, but what if we make it suck for everyone else on behalf of the Rat Lord?
Yeah, I mean, and it's a weird one too that they did, because like, not that they always do the exact same thing, but normally it's like the teaser, and then what, like a week till the video, and then like 2 weeks till release or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it speaks to the fact that they're really cramming everything in this patch. The fact that they're even doing something different as far as like the release schedule, not just that's pushed back, but the fact that it's like a teaser, then multiple weeks till the video, then 3 weeks till the release. Like, that tells me that they are literally shoving everything they can in here.
Yeah.
I think this patch is going to be pretty insane.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we are also going to have, leading up to it, I think the community stress is going to be increased quite a bit, because I think on the 7th, right, we're going to get the reveal and everybody's going to be like, oh my God, like their minds are going to be blown, right? When GGG's like, here's all the classes or whatever is going to happen, you know, that just out of left field. But then here's what I see happening. Due to the time frame in between, right? Because we normally get the reveal, the Q&A, and we get patch notes. And then you have a week of like small iterations on things and then launch. I personally don't think that they're going to give us patch notes 3 weeks out. I think that is going to, like that and like the Atlas tree or the passive tree and stuff like that. I don't think we're getting it until maybe a couple days before launch, because they are going to be changing so much stuff in that time. Because otherwise, why would they you would just push the announcement and just go, hey guys, sorry, we need to delay, and you would delay the whole thing, like announcement, to keep your cycle, in my mind.
Well, I think that some of the cycle, maybe again, because like I was saying, they're trying to pack it. It also may be that GGG does feel that, like, unlike other, you know, not the, again, glazing GGG here, but I feel like the pressure is more pronounced on them because they give a shit, right? And so by them delaying the patch already, people were already like, hey, what the hell's going on? I think they wanted to say something to the community. And I personally think that maybe it would have been better to be a little less tight-lipped and, you know, maybe said something a few weeks ago or something, but that's whatever. It is what it is. But I think there's like some pressure that they, you know, feel, because they are gamers. They make this game because they love it, not because it pays them, you know, the most. If you want to make the game that paid the most in the ARPG space, you make Diablo 4, right? So that's not what they made. They made the game that they love, right? And so I think there's that pressure from the community because they actually care to like get it out. And so I think there's some of that going there for sure. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No, you're good. You're good.
I rolled off there, but
just kind of, yeah. So just kind of bring it back and see if I can get you back onto there.
Yeah, please, thank you.
So with that, do you think, like, what do you think our timeline is looking like? So you think we get the announcement and then we're gonna get patch notes?
Oh, that's right. You said the adjustment. Yeah. The patch notes, right? Sorry, I trailed off. I yapped too hard and I lost my way.
Jonathan beamed in and you were like, yes, Jonathan, I must glaze. I do it all the time. It's okay.
I think that there's two scenarios with the patch notes. We either get, they did it once before where we got like a redacted or like a smaller patch note section with the video, and then like real close to release they released more patch notes because they were still, I don't remember which patch it was, but they were still, you know, pushing shit in. So they did a, you know, like a secondary, like a bunch of amended patch, like a pretty massive amount of amended
0.3.
Maybe it might have been, but they've done that before. So there's one angle there that they possibly release patch notes based on like what's in the EA video that they have solid, and then we get a second round of patch notes. I think the other possibility is, we do have basically 3 weeks between the video and league instead of like a week or whatever it is. Or 8 days, I think it's been a lot of times. So like it may be a thing where like maybe a week after or a week and a half after they give us the patch notes to kind of feed us a little bit, because and the thing with the patch notes is I feel like even in all of the leagues, I feel like the patch notes are never there's always stuff that's not in the patch notes that they're like still working on to the last minute. So, there's going to be some of that regardless, but it may be a thing where they just wait an extra week or two to drop it just to like feed us some content, so to speak.
Yeah. But I think that they also don't want to wait till the last minute on the patch notes, right? Because there's a lot of things that
we need to theory craft.
We need to theory craft, and they need us to theory craft so they can go, oh shit, maybe we can't let Jungron do this. And while that is really frustrating for a lot of crazy juicer players, if they wait, like they've made it very clear, they're not going to fix a lot of stuff unless it's absolutely game breaking after the patch drops. And I think that if we're getting into this potential 6-month league before December 1.0 copium, that they also can't let stuff go. Like the 0.5 can't drop and have like 6 one-shot everything builds off launch and that be for 6 months. That is going to be bad. So I'm curious. I think May 7th to May 29th is going to be peak drama. I think it's going to be peak drama. I think we are just on the tip of the iceberg now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they've been so reluctant to adjust things is the problem. I don't think that's necessarily a good thing.
Oh,
I think adjusting is fine.
I know people, if they nerf my build mid-league, that would really bother me. Like I'd be like, oh shit, now I got to do something different. And I know a lot of players would go, well, I don't have time to build another character, so I'm done. And that would suck. There has to be a balance. There has to be something.
Well, I think I would say like, I'm not like, I don't want to throw shade or anything, but like a lot of those players are playing for how long?
Yeah.
3 weeks, a month and a half. Okay. So, I mean, why not a month or 2 months into the league, drop an announcement like, hey boys, all this stuff's been crazy for the last 2 months. And we've been letting everyone have fun with it, but we need to make sure we get some of this reined in for the next patch. So we went ahead and did some adjustments. Anyone that's still playing, we'd love feedback on what you guys, feel about these adjustments, blah, blah, blah. Right. And you might even get some people coming back like, oh shit, I want to test what they did. I want to test how they balanced it, But other than degens like myself and you and, a handful of other people, most aren't playing the entirety of the league. We're like, I'm not a lot of people that are 6 months in this league still playing that have been playing every day, the whole thing, right? So it's like, you're not really going to, if you wait a month or two into a league to do like that massive adjustment, especially because it's early access, then I don't think you're going to affect that many people. And I think GGG needs all the time they can to tweak things to get them in line, right? Because clearly we have builds that are so vastly outperforming here. It's just, it makes the game way less fun, way less enjoyable, right? It's just, it kills a lot of the game. So,
yeah, I agree. I think that the best thing to do if we don't get patch notes, like if we don't have time to kind of theory craft and figure these things out, I think, I don't remember what I was watching because I'm like watching everyone, listening to everyone, trying to absorb all the information. Somebody said something to the effect of kind of how 0.2 wasn't like a league necessarily. It was more of like an economy reset with Wisps or whatever in a new class. Take some of that out. Do we get a mid-league balance pass and economy reset? And maybe like, oh, we reworked this league mechanic or something like that. I think that is possible, but then I also think that could be, I don't know how they'll feel about how that will line up with 3.29 for PoE 1, like trying not to compete with themselves. I don't know. What do you think?
PoE 1, PoE 2 competition.
I know how you feel about that.
Yeah. I'm just not much of a retro gamer. That's all.
Yeah,
You know.
It's basically Diablo 2 at this point.
I haven't even remastered it yet.
Yeah, I know.
It's weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see what ends up happening there, but I think prioritizing the early access game to get it done, especially with the potential of 1.0 with Exile Con and stuff. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna be there. Jonathan, Mark,
Nice. There you go.
I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be heartbroken if it's PoE mobile. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest. I don't want to fight Shaper on my phone. I wanna play 1.0.
I think it's going to be a 1.0 announcement.
Yeah.
I think that this is the last league before 1.0. Ow.
Yeah.
That's my current tinfoil hat copium. Once 0.5 actually hits and we can see like how much content is actually in 0.5, then I'll reassess that. But I am kind of thinking 0.5 is going to be juiced out of its mind. Like, I'm at minimum expecting class and like the last ranger, the last huntress ascendancy. But I'm like 65% expecting 2 classes. And if they drop 2 classes and the last ranger and the last huntress ascendancy and the in-game rework and a league mechanic, if that all comes together, then I think we are actually potentially able to hit that 1.0 at the end of the year, or like, February or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that's a possibility then.
Yeah.
But if 0.5 comes out and they're like, okay, boys, no classes, no ascendancies, we did everything, work in the end game, then the only way 1.0 hits in that timeline is if they're cutting stuff out, right?
Yeah. And they've said that they're willing to launch 1.0 without all classes. I think that's
a rough one for me anyway as a consumer.
Agreed.
Right? Because like, I bought into this, like, here's what was going to happen at 1.0, and that was going to be a year from now, and now it's 2 years out and we're going to 1.0 without the stuff that we're supposed. So that one's like, that's a tough pill for me a little bit. I really hope they don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
If they do, they do, but I really hope that they're able to get everything that was promised for the game in. And then, because I don't want, if 1.0 comes out and then like, cool, all right, 1.1 or 2.0 or whatever, we're gonna have Templar in, like, well, it's just still, nothing's changed. We're still in early access, right? And to me, it's like, until all that stuff's out, it's not out of early access. When it's out of early access is when the 2.0 or whatever comes out, 1.1, whatever you want to call it, and it's just a league, right? And maybe some new skills and new mechanic. There's no new classes. There's no new weapon. Like,
all the major content.
There's no new
done.
act. Right. Yeah. It's just, here's the refresh, dude. We spent the last 4 months cooking this monster of a mechanic. Oh yeah, and we brought alternate skill gems in, or whatever.
Yeah. That's fair. I think it'll be interesting. That does bring us back around to one of our next points. So thank you for roundabouting us, because that was good, because I did not do a good job at segueing. But
I live in Washington State. We have a lot of roundabouts.
Dude, we had a lot of roundabouts.
Sorry, I'm dying here.
You're good too. Don't choke to death. As your redeem says, drink water, you dehydrated bitch. It's important.
I have to.
Yeah. I want to talk about then what our craziest, most outlandish prediction is for 0.5, because we know kind of what we are getting. We know that we're getting end-game rework. We are, I would say, we're probably 75% on a duelist drop. Like, I feel like that's pretty safe.
I mean, because swords, right?
Yeah.
Like, they have to give us swords.
Yeah. Swords. Give them to us. I have 2 of my own, but I will give them to GGG and trade for swords in game.
Yeah, I mean, they've said multiple times that it's like crazy that they don't have swords in yet too. So it's like, I'd be very surprised, like you said, if the duelist doesn't come in. I don't know, craziest, my wildest prediction. I don't know. Wildest prediction. Oh, probably. You know what they could do that'd be really good for 0.5. What if they deleted softcore trade and then everyone played HCSSF only? That'd really keep them coming back.
Yeah, I think I remember listening to a podcast with Blaze, and I remember this other like bald guy, and he said something about like, HCSSF is just better. And I've kind of lived by that for a long time.
That's true.
So,
no, I don't know what I mean, I feel like my regular predictions right now are pretty wild. With thinking that maybe we get 2 classes or something like that. Wild prediction, they bring over Shaper and Elder, shut down PoE 1, and we just push PoE 2 to the future.
That would be catastrophic for many people. And you know what? Let it burn. Sometimes you just gotta. Mine, I was talking to some of the boys the other day. I'm thinking, I'm with you on the classes. I genuinely think with the timeline, we can get 2 classes, because they said Druid was making 3 classes in 1, and it was in animation hell and did all these things. We've seen
for years. They spent years on the Druid.
We've seen Shadow in game already. We've seen like at least the model. Obviously, it's not animations and things, but they have had tons of time. I do not think it is outlandish to say that we get 2 classes. My crazy prediction that I was told, people were like, "Oh, okay, buddy." I think we're going to get a PoE 2 exclusive league mechanic. I think we're going to get a precursor themed league mechanic. I know that the precursor thing is like the end game, and normally it's like the end game and league mechanic, or the campaign act and league mechanic.
You mean when you say PoE 2 exclusive?
So
not because Temple is not a carryover, right?
Well, it's according to how it's categorized in the game, and how like even how the tab is for trade. I know you don't see the trade window. It says what's it called?
Alva.
Yeah,
I guess Alva.
What was the name of that league mechanic?
For Alva and PoE 1?
Not infiltration, but like, you know what I mean?
No.
I don't know why I'm blanking so hard.
I can't remember, dude. You go through the portal and then you fight all the dudes and you build your temple. Oh yeah, I guess you do build your temple. You know what? Incursion. Is that Incursion? Yeah. And I forgot that even existed because I came to PoE 1 late, and like by the time I built a temple and fought that dude, he didn't drop anything, and everyone says don't do that. And then by the time I learned you could actually build like cool temples there, I forgot it even existed. So okay.
So it's technically Incursion.
It is.
And Abyss is the rework there. I think that we get a new league mechanic for PoE 2.
Maybe.
That's my like wrap my tinfoil up.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I think that's a big ask with them doing everything else that we're hoping for, with like the end game rework and possibly multiple classes. One of my mods said Legion, which there were a lot of statues in that teaser. So I'm like, oh, statues, Legion. And the other thing is, I do kind of think we need an in-map mechanic no matter what it is.
Agreed.
Because right now there's just like it's pulling out of maps too much, especially with like the way Temple is.
Yeah. I agree with that.
But yeah, I mean, hey, good to have a wild theory. Like maybe it is something brand new. That'd be a lot. That'd be a lot for them to put out for sure.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I feel like that it's like it might be weird otherwise for them to be like, here's this massive end game rework, and here, like, the Atlas is completely changed, new class and all these things, and Einhar's here. Like, it just feels kind of like in the corner for a League mechanic.
I mean, I could understand that perception, but you've played the last leagues, right? Abyss was a rehash and it was amazing. Tempo is a rehash and it's basically amazing, especially if you love snaking, right? And I think there's something to be said for taking your prior experience with implementing something into your game and all the things you learn from like adjusting it over the years. And then like, okay, now we take this mechanic that we've got 5 years, 8 years, whatever experience with. How can we re-envision it for our new game? I think there's something to be said for that too, because it's like the whole point with PoE 1 and PoE 2 is I do want them to be different games, but I don't want them to throw out everything that they learned along the way, right? Because that's kind of how we got here, was like all these lessons they learned and all this stuff they learned from PoE 1. So I really like the idea of them, you know, remaking stuff in PoE 2, because I do like seeing, you know, kind of the new thought process with it in the second game. And, you know, Abyss, amazing. Temple, amazing. Wisps. Hi, my name is Delwyn.
They're in the game. You have the look of a hunter. No, I don't. Fuck off.
Yeah, Wisps definitely need some love. I really, really hope that in part of this in-game rework is that the previous mechanics, everything basically prior to Abyss, gets, you know, polished up and retouched, because, you know, most of those, you know, Breach, Exiles, Abyss, Ritual, they just don't feel great. I'd love to see those, you know, touched up. I'd love to see Chaos Trial touched up, because like I don't even do Chaos Trial. I find it to be just pain champ.
Yeah.
Right. When I get done with it and I click the button and it drops, you know, 4 or 6 corrupted items, whatever. And I'm like, cool, there's trash, right? Because anything that drops corrupted in the game is literally trash. Doesn't have quality. It doesn't have sockets. It's unusable. Usually it doesn't even have the affixes on it. So
yeah,
hopefully all that stuff gets touched and polished up with the rework as well.
Yeah, I think if we don't do a new League mechanic, let's say we are porting Legion or Bestiary or something, I can see him doing that and reworking all of the legacy ones, or doing a new one. I don't think that there's no way that we would get both of those.
I think I'd rather have the rework. Not that I wouldn't.
I agree.
Love to have something new.
I 100% agree. I 100% agree. I would rather have the reworks.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because they all just feel bad. I mean, Exiles are like, oof.
Can you find them?
Well, I mean, honestly, I feel like I've been finding them more in this league, than maybe ever before.
I think that might be with the tablet changes have helped a lot with that.
Maybe it is tablet changes, because they are on there as a guarantee now. But what I find just painful is when I walk over to the Exile I just killed and pick up her blue accuracy ring on a caster with 1 roll on it of flat fizz and it's corrupted. I'm like, wow, that is
incredible.
That is some good stuff. Right? Or, you know, you're trying to do ritual for, you know, the Omen of Widowing, which is like one of the only high-end crafting materials that's accessible, and you get one every 3 months or, you know, whatever it may be. Or like Delwyn, the Wisps are the worst, because I think the Wisps right now just suffer from like, you can't feel the juice. I still firmly believe that that 0.1 and 0.2 until they re-geared everything, I fully believe was just ruthless mode, right? PoE 1 ruthless mode was just the testing phase for PoE 2. And then when PoE 2 came out, it was just ruthless mode. No drops, you know, meaningful combat, all of it, right? And like Wisps really suffer from that, because when you follow this Wisp all around the map and then it juices up this rare and you kill it, you can't really tell unless it drops an idol, it's so hard to tell that there's any extra juice in that rare whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then the worst part of Wisps is when you fight one down at the bottom of the map, and then you're doing the respawn Wisp thing. I just did this because I was running a gen, so I needed Wisps on a fresh start. And so I was actually at points in a Wisp, so it was like you would kill them and they would respawn from the monster you kill. And so I followed one down to the bottom of the map, respawned, it went to the top of the map, respawn, went to the bottom of the map, respawn, went to the top of the map, that many times. I just kept running back through the exact same place I had been 3 different times to chase this Wisp down for nothing, so it feels pretty horrible right now.
Yeah, I think this league, I spec'd into Wisps for the first time. I did 2 maps spec'd into Wisps on my Atlas tree because everybody's like, oh my god, if you do the Wisps thing, you can get all the omens and all the stuff. And I did it for 2 maps, and I told my buddy Everseen, I was like, I think that I would rather chew glass than continue doing this, so I'm gonna just stop because it was awful. And I think that needs big work. I personally, GGG, can we fix strong boxes, please? Can we fix strong boxes? Can I use strong boxes for anything? That would be great.
I just want it when the little currency tab on the bottom of the strong box, right? That they added, that you're just supposed to be able to click it to add currency to the strong box.
That I'm not gonna click it by accident.
Amazing. But that little box that's around it, if I accidentally click a millimeter off, okay, it shouldn't open the box. It should only open the box if I actually click the big tab that is the box. The little currency tab off of that should not be clickable to open. If I'm in that little box and I misclick, don't open the box. I'm trying to add currency. I'm not trying to open the box here. It drives me insane. It happens probably, well, I wouldn't say once a day, but it happens more often than I like to admit. All right.
No, I agree with that. It's just those little things, those quality of lives that will be hopefully a lot better in 0.5. With talking about things getting changed and rebalanced, we're gonna move our focus a little bit more towards your expertise, which is builds. Before we do that, I just want to check how we're feeling on time. You good? Okay.
Yeah.
You just if we're going long, you just let me know.
No worries.
But I want to talk about the current state of class balance and build variety, because I am what they call a one build Andy a lot of the time. I do enjoy my play style, and my play style is ailments, and preferably ailments from far away. And so that's the way I like to do. You do a new build with a new class. I don't think I've ever seen, unless you're a character just dies too early, you re-roll the same class immediately. Even if it's for a slightly different build, it seems like you try to vary it quite a bit. With what is currently in the game, how do you feel about the amount of available build variety?
I think right now, build variety is actually really good, but I think the overperforming builds are overperforming at such a high level that it really overshadows a lot of that build variety. I think anytime you have a build that's, this build over here is 10x, how do you reasonably not play that? I would say, quite honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I'm the pig-headed, hard-headed guy that's not playing the meta stuff, right? Because it's probably stupid to not play the thing that can kill Arbiter in half a second, right? If I can hit Arbiter 3 times with a shield wall and win, or I can play this build that takes me 10 minutes to fight Arbiter, I'm the one, and not 10 minutes, but you know what I'm saying? Reasonably, I'm the one probably making bad decisions there. But I think overall build variety right now feels so much better than it ever has in the game. And there's a lot less of I feel like there's less of those overperforming builds. They're kind of narrowing the field a bit more each league. And I've definitely felt that a lot of the builds that I've made this league have actually gone quite far. Pretty much most of my builds make it to Arbiter, right? And that I think speaks pretty well to how everything is balanced. right? If I can take, like, I mean, okay, we died to Aziri on the Bramble Slam, Thorns weirdness, right? But like to even take a build based around Bramble Slam to T15s, I had farmed my Arbiter Invitation. I just did Aziri first and died to her covering the screen. But like the damage was really good. I feel like that build could have killed Arbiter, no problem, as long as I didn't mess up the mechanics. So to be able to take something like Bramble Slam, which if you don't know what Bramble Slam is, by the way, chat, it is a ability that it is a support gem that goes in a slam ability. And when you slam the ground, it puts briar patches on the ground that do damage based off of your thorns damage. So to be able to take something like that and make a build out of it relatively like easily and also a lot of fun, like that build went crazy because we ended up with like somehow I get a Mjolnir every league in SSF. I don't know how, but we end up putting like a Mjolnir on it to water because they're plants, right? So the brambles are plants that you can actually water. So we ended up using Mjolnir that when we were slamming, we were self-watering our brambles, and it was crazy awesome, and like. But there were a lot of standout builds for me this league. There was the wolf, like we did a wolf pack build that was a lot of fun where we based everything off like rage and maxing out rage. So they got the attack speed, attack damage per 1% rage. Pathfinder with whirling assault. Like there was so many good builds this league. So yeah, I think that build variety is at a good spot. I still think there's things that need to change, right? I'm looking at you, Life, but other than that, I do really feel like it's in such a better spot than it was.
Yeah, I do agree. I think that it's obviously from an outside perspective, I can, play the game enough. While I do play mainly like Ranger and things like that, I still have 2,000 hours in the game, right? So I can be like, oh yeah, I can tell that build sucks or not. And it does seem like the build variety is the best that it has been. But I do, it's a good question. Our boy Blaze put a good question in the chat, which was, do we think that this is a reflection of how there isn't too much aspirational content? And so the ceiling for most builds is relatively low. Because I know in PoE 2, it definitely is a lot easier to self-cook a build versus PoE 1 and take it to the pinnacle content. But I don't know. I haven't really thought about it that way. So I guess I'm curious what your perspective is as somebody who's played the end game way more than I have.
I mean, I think there's content there. I just think if you have builds that absolutely if you have, a handful of builds over here that trivialize it, then it's basically trivialized for everyone because again, it's like, why would you not play that? So that's comes back to like what I said before. It's like there is a lot of build variety, but it's kind of overshadowed right now by these massive builds. Because if your pinnacle content is Arbiter or whatever, and again you have a couple builds out there that can 3 or 4 shot them, then that's not much in the way of pinnacle content, right? But is that because he's designed badly, or is that because things are just scaled so high that he doesn't stand a chance of being irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
The thing, it's a little bit of the identity crisis that I think PoE 2 still has, of like, as you're playing through maps, you have kind of that meaningful content. Or I'm sorry, as you're playing through campaign, you kind of have that meaningful content, and you're like, slower fights and yada yada. And then as you get into deep in game, if you have meaningful content, your character, well, if you're playing hardcore, it won't exist anymore. And if you're playing softcore, you're just going to get frustrated at dying every 5 minutes because the end of the day, it gets really not a lot different as far as how congested and crazy it is, right? In a high tier, high content map. So it's like you are very much encouraged to push one of these, clear the screen in one click or whatever it may be to keep your character alive. But I think it's a hard one because it's like you can't. It's like I've said with Life and ES. How do you balance a game around this character over here having 15,000 hit points and this character over here having 3,000, and then the boss in the middle is supposed to be balanced for either character fighting him, right? How does that work? It's no different than if this character over here does 150 million DPS a second, this character over here does 1 million DPS a second, and now I'm going to balance a boss in the middle of those two characters. How? You can't, right? You can't. So it comes back. It's like I played PoE. I have 3,000 hours on PoE 1. I found it late. I'm sure I missed a lot of stuff, and there will be people that are like, "Oh no, you're wrong about this," and they're right. I'm sure, but for me playing PoE 1, I remember distinctly one time where I got to that level of like, holy, the game's just insignificant, and that was in um Affliction League. And everyone was rich out of their minds. I
Yeah,
got my first Mage
3.23.
Blood. Yeah, I got my first ever Mage Blood in PE1, and they also had Penance Brand, like the off penance. There's like Penance Brand of Dissolution or something they put in, and it was insane. And I was running that with Mage Blood, and literally Uber Eater was like a 3-second fight or something. It was just like, here he is. There, okay, never mind, he's dead, right? And it was so trivializing that I got my Mage Blood. I was like, I'm gonna fight all the Ubers. I fought 2, and I was like, all right, and I logged up. And that is what I think the average PoE2 experience is right now. Is that most gamers are playing this build that everything is just trivialized. It literally doesn't matter. Like, you kill Uber Arbiter in 2-3 hits
In a
right?
6-person party health bar.
Yeah. So how you can't the game has such extreme ends right now that's just really, really hard to balance. So I think that I'm not saying that we don't need more content. Don't get me wrong, we do. But I think that we definitely need a smaller range of build, build damage, build variance. Not variance because you want to be different, but power, right? Smaller range of build power, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Instead of this, over 9,000 power level versus Krillin, right? Like there needs to be something, a little more balance there, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I agree with that. I'm trying to think because I think that one of the issues that they've talked about, right, is that they're worried about making like pinnacle content that is like they're worried about the moment that they add the boss with like the 100 million health. And then now they're limiting what builds people can do. Like they're worried about that limiting build variety, where some people are viewing it as, I don't have a reason to, like, I can play all these builds, but I don't have any aspirational build to reach. And I think that there's those two sides of the player base where they want to know, oh, I can crush the top end content. And then there's people who want to play a bunch of builds and like experience the different things.
The thing I liked about like PoE 1, man, is like when I started playing PoE 1, it took me a couple leagues, even playing softcore trade, to ever get to like bosses. And like the game's hard.
Yeah.
And I
It's
like
very
that.
hard.
I want the game to be hard. I don't want it to be, oh, let's just fucking click whatever the easiest ability is, like explosive nades or shield wall, and then I can just AFK until Arbiter, and then, oh, well, he doesn't drop anything better than what I have, and then log out. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of issues there, but I think it's hard to like even get to that point when there's such imbalance.
Yeah.
Like, I understand people are like, oh, well, there's nothing to aspire to, but well, that's because we're aspiring in like this massive imbalanced arena, right? Where again, it's a 2-3 shot in a boss versus someone actually fighting and having to do all the mechanics on it. Like, that build variance is so massive, and it's not okay. Well, this guy's 2-3 shot in a boss because he spent 200 hours on his character and just like went crazy and got all the best stuff. It's no, he got the maps yesterday, and it's just overpowered. Right? Like, there's no investment there. It's not, they didn't invest in this character to make them good. They just clicked the same buttons that this guy over here told them were broken, and okay, now the game's trivialized,
Yeah. I think that the thing that makes PoE 1 harder in that way, like, yes, there's just more content and more different things. But like when I think about a PoE 1 build, like even in this past league where I have 600 hours in PoE 1, I know I'm a baby when it comes to PoE 1 standards. But I've finished my Atlas every league that I've played and like all the things. And this league, I'm getting my Void Stones, do all the stuff, the Atlas rework, enjoying it. But even following a build guide, there's so many more things like, oh yes, but to actually follow this build guide to get it to the Uber status that you want, you need to farm the 6% Fizz Light of Meaning from King of the Mist, and then you need to roll these cluster jewels or buy them, which, you know, trade, whatever. But there's so many of those little things that any player who's new and doesn't, oh, what's the difference between that unique jewel and the jewel that I have slot in there? Oh, well, and it's like 40% damage on your build. There's not any real stuff like that in PoE 2 that I can think of.
I think some of that's like, is that because of scaling too? Because like there's so many good ways to scale stuff and different ways to scale stuff in PoE 1, and then like PoE 2, it's like, cool, how many plus skills do you have on your stuff?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? There's so little there, so it makes it a lot easier, right? Because it's just like, there's a few things you can do, but it gets pretty, you know, basic, like, and most of them don't stack up the plus skills.
Right.
Whereas in like PoE 1, I think PoE 1 has a, you know, not only has a lot more different, you know, levers you can pull or whatever you want to call it, but then you also have a lot more of like things built in over time that, like suppression, spell suppression, for instance, right? That like they've put in the game because it was like things were too, like builds were dying without spell suppression. They put in spell suppression, so now you have to have spell suppression, right? And so it like makes the builds more and more complicated for like a new player to be able to figure it out. I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. Like, you do want new players to be able to understand the game without having to understand, you know, spell resistance plus spell suppression plus, you know, spell whatever, right? Like, maybe that's not great, but then also, is that the reason, you know, that there's less broken builds, because you do have to have all of these things to make a build strong, you know, in PoE 1 versus PoE 2.
Yeah. I agree with that as well, because I think thinking back to like builds that I've had to deal with in PoE 1, like in PoE 2, my defensive layers, you know, barring life from the conversation, we're going to get there. Let's say I have evasion, which kind of sucks. But then they added deflection to make it kind of better, and it's a little bit better. It still kind of sucks, but it's a little bit better. And I have ES, which I can stack to the moon. And then, you know, I have my resistances and have those things. I take care of that stuff. Maybe I'm playing a one-handed weapon, so I can do a shield, right? So I can get some block. Those are my defensive layers. In PoE, and then I put on like Wind Dancer or something like that. In PoE 1, I'm thinking, okay, so I'm playing a Bleed Gladiator, so I have Lucky Block, which is really nice, but then also I die a lot to degens and stuff, so I need to have this Pantheon maxed out so that I can get immune to Fire Ground. I need to become ailment immune so I don't get shocked or frozen. I need to do Corrupted Blood immunity using this mastery on over here. And I need to use this rune graph to be able to make my skills not cost 100 million billion mana. And like, I'm having to do all of these things just to like do T16s comfortably, let alone I go to do quests, Exarch, and a ball one-shots me. And I'm like, well, what the hell? I have max fire res. I have a little bit of spell suppression because I'm on the warrior strength side, so it's hard for me to get the spell suppression or whatever. And you're just getting walloped by quest Exarch. And I know PoE 1 vets are probably like, bro, just use a totem and block it and do this or whatever. But the point is, the ceiling is so much higher to be able to get to the aspirational content, where I think most people could reach PoE 2 aspirational content in a league, even if it's their first.
The way everything currently is, for sure. Have you had those same people, you know, have those same people log in and reach aspirational content on a life-based warrior? You know what I mean? Or like, it's because, again, I think it's just, I always keep pulling it back to the balance thing, because it's like, yeah, if I go play, you know, whatever, the cast on crit, you know, cock Comet with 20,000 ES, okay, and then if you go play, let's say, I don't know, Sunder on a life-based warrior, and then tell me it's the same game, right? Like, tell me it's even close.
It's not.
It's miles and miles and miles apart. And I'm not saying that there shouldn't be like some builds that are better than others, but I'm not talking builds here. I'm not talking like
Talking archetypes.
these like, yeah, I'm talking like the most basic starter point here. I'm not talking we have 20 uniques and you know what I mean. We're level 95 and you need 98 to have enough skill points for it to come online. I'm just talking like the most basic stuff here, like. It's such a vastly different world if you're playing on the bottom side of the tree versus the top side of the tree, right? It's literally night and day. And it's like, it's so hard because I just think everything comes back to it. All of the issues I see, well, not all of them, but a lot of the issues I see with PoE2, it's like you can't even begin to fix them until those things are more in line. Because if you look at PoE1, okay, there's an ES build with 15K, and right behind it is a life-based build with 12K, right? And guess what? They're in the same realm. They can play the same game. And then you can try to balance that game's content around those builds, right? But again, it's the 15,000 ES versus 3,000 to 4,000 life, unless you have comms and this and that and the other, which is impossible for SSF anyway. But yeah, it's just all these things go back to balance for me. They just all go back to balance for me.
Yeah, I mean, even in PoE 1, like this past league, I got my Void Stones and did all the things on, slams are OP in PoE 1 right now, but like a slams Berserker did that. But I 4.6k life. But what's the difference? First of all, armor doesn't suck. And I know the armor's in a much better state now.
At 4.6k, you probably weren't even trying.
I didn't really
you
need
probably
to.
accidentally got 4.6k.
You're correct. I did. Yeah, because
right.
I could put nodes in it on the tree. And I could get 15% life just by not having life on my chest piece with a mastery.
Right.
Give me masteries in PoE2, please.
Masteries are pretty cool. I do miss masteries.
What is interesting, well, I did that, and then like I have Fortify, right? Fortify alone. We're talking once you invest
reduction.
into it. I think I got to like 22 or whatever. So 22 stacks, 22% damage reduction meant that the only thing that was killing me was degens, like ground degens. And then I could put on the Relikesh Pantheon and not take damage from burning ground. So I'm like, okay, I look out for like caustic ground and then I'm good other than that. Where
it's kind of like they forgot some of the lessons from PoE1, right? Like the reason Fort exists is because those classes and archetypes were struggling. And it's like, here we are again.
Yeah, and it's interesting because that's the same thing that they said about life too, is that they're worried about it being like life on tree. And this was, we're now talking 2 years ago that the statement was made. So who knows what the philosophy is now, but life on tree is like shoehorning builds, which is the craziest thing to me. I think that is the most unhinged take that I've ever heard from GGG.
But that'd be the thing I probably least agree with GGG on for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I think that any RPG, like life, constitution, vitality, being able to increase your character, like it's a no-brainer. And if you want people to understand if you want people to come in and be able to understand your game out the gate, like why make that convoluted and difficult to understand when it's been established for 40 years? You know what I mean?
Yeah. To bring it back around a little bit, because I do about the you said the cast on crit Comet 20,000 ES build versus the life build in PoE2. I think that talking about yes, exactly, the Sunder build. The curious thing though to me is, while we're like, oh my god, the Sunder build, that's painful. In comparison, it is painful. Do you think that you could take that Sunder build to Arbiter?
Yeah.
So that's the difference between PoE1 and PoE2. Because we're talking the build that we're complaining about the most, that were like, this archetype needs help, can still reach the aspirational content.
Well, I have, going on 3,500 hours in the game, and they're all HCSSS.
And that's
so
fair.
I would say that my estimate, me thinking that I could get there may not be what the average player would say. But
it's all that we have to go off of, though.
The fact that both those characters can get to the same fight is a good thing. Because you know what I mean? Like, it's a good thing that a life character can get there. Now, the thing about getting a life character there is, like, at some point, it's probably going to get really sketch, and I probably won't be able to push anywhere close to the can I get to Arbiter with both characters? Yes. But when I get to Arbiter on my ES Comet, I'm doing 6 mod T16s for days beforehand, laughing and AFK talking to chat. On my Sunder build, I'm on 15s with no mods, and
6 portal
my butt
defense.
is clenched. My butt is clenched 90% of the day, right? Yeah. Because what inevitably happens is, like, once you get up into the high tiers and you start adding like damage mods, 3,000-4,000 life, even with good reductions on everything, it's like you get hit for, let's say, 2K or 2,500. Well, you just watch your health bar go from 100% to 25% in one hit. You know what I mean? That's stressful, especially as from a hardcore standard. Or, if you're playing, even if you're playing softcore and you're doing high tier maps with one portal or whatever, it's stressful, right? And it's like, but then you jump on that other character with 15,000 ES. Okay, so they don't have the reduction. So instead of taking a 2K hit, they take a 3K hit or a 3,500, right? Well, they have 15,000 HP. So they move from 100% to 75% on their bar, maybe 80, right? Whereas that life build, again, you go from 125 in one hit. And it's like, it's just...
And then they hit one button with, what is it, Convocation or whatever.
Convalescence. Yep.
Convalescence, just start and then it just goes...
Well, I mean, all you really have to do is put 3 to 4 points in faster ES and then do 1 dodge roll. And then your ES is restarted. The worst case that you have to hit Convalescence for is if you have an Ignite and it won't restart on dodge roll because you're still taking damage, right? You may have to hit Convalescence. But the reality is, most builds, as long as you can get down to about a 2.5 second recharge time on your ES, you do a dodge roll, your ES is restarted, you're back in it. No big deal.
Yeah. I have a confession to make to you on this topic.
Do it.
In my almost 2,000 hours in PoE 2, I have never gotten a warrior out of Act 1. Never once.
Oh, it's rough, man.
And it is not for lack of trying. Every league I've ran at least one, and I get about to just pass Executioner, and I'm like, around that time on my Ranger, I kill Executioner, I get my level 5 skill gem, and I'm like, all right, I got Toxic Growth, right? And so now Clear is starting to get good. I'm one boss away from getting a level 2 support gem to get Bursting Plague, so my Clear gets really good.
You don't like the warrior meaningful combat?
I love Dark Souls.
You don't want to fight 3 mobs at a time?
I love Dark Souls. Okay, I love it. But here's the thing: in the same way we were talking about earlier on, maybe like 0.2, where we're talking about how the mobs are playing PoE 1 and we're playing PoE 2. I don't want to play Dark Souls while they're playing PoE 2 endgame.
Yeah.
So it's really like, I actually did a challenge run on stream recently where I did gold found only. So I could only interact with just like that kind of thing. Like, I can buy stuff from merchants, I can find gold, no ground items, no da. And at the time I did it without, I could only use support gems and skill gems I got from quests. So I had a level 1 poison burst and a level 5 toxic growth and 1 support gem. And I got Geonor to 10% health on second phase before I died. I almost cleared Act 1 like that.
It still felt better than the warrior.
and it still felt better than playing Rolling Slam. Like, it's because I could be at a distance. I wasn't worried about dying. I was just having to take my time, right?
Yeah. Well, then people are like, well, Warrior does so good in speedrun. I'm like, well, you don't actually fight things when you speedrun. You speedrun. It's like,
bossing
through the campaign. Yeah, it does great, but like play through the actual game, like fighting stuff and just, not speedrunning, take your time. It just feels so, because the average gamer is not out there speedrunning, right? We're not out, you're not out there dodging packs and like, okay, I gotta make sure I'm one level higher because I won't be able to get XP in this zone if I'm 10 levels below or what. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the average gamer experience. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's just not the average gamer experience, right?
Yeah.
The average gamer experience on Warrior is like, you walk out there like, ugh. Like, that's like, I've attacked twice, right? And then like this guy runs past you with lightning arrow, lightning rod, and just like rounds up 30 dudes, like, and then leaves, dude. And you're like, wait, what? What just happened? It's Warrior is like, I think Warrior also suffers from just having maces too, because like they want maces to be the the super slow weapon success. But if that's the only thing that's like available, right there in that melee category out the gate, it feels rough, really rough.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. First of all, talking about the speedrunning thing a little bit, not all of us are professional Valheim players like Angormus being the PoE speedrunners, right? And he was the one putting Warrior on the map before, and it is, I could see where it's good, but it's good with perfect strike if you can nail that timing. And now shield wall. To me, your shield wall is like people who are like, I play monk, that's melee. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. And so to me, like, that's not the archetype that we're talking about, right? When we're talking about Warrior needing help. I think one, Mace Strike is the best Warrior skill that you can use in Act 1. And two, I think if 0.1 launched with Marauder and axes instead of Warrior and maces, this entire conversation would be completely different over the past 2 years. Fundamentally, leap slam with an axe and do like, I just think it's completely different.
Well, if you remember, does a leap slam still has the like 1 second timer on it, right? That's like, they just took that off Sunder.
Yeah,
but
I think it does. And
I think it still does, right?
There's elite axe.
But Pounce doesn't, right?
No.
You can just pounce. It's like, it's like this mass. Hate to bring it back to balance, but here we are. You literally have 2 travel skills, one that was introduced in 0.1 when the thought process was ruthless mode. So here's a travel skill that you're not going to be able to adjust with attack speed, and we're going to put a plus 1 second on it. And then you have a year later, now we're going to introduce another leap slam, very, very similar ability. But now we've learned that original train of thought wasn't what people wanted and wasn't the way to go. So we introduced Pounce, but we're not gonna fix Leap Slam. We're just gonna leave Leap Slam over here in the dumpster, right? So now everyone just pounces. Did you see anyone using Leap Slam during the races? Because all I saw was Pounce.
Yeah, and the leaked, not to talk too much about those, but the leaked skill gems, there is like an axe specific like Leap Slam one, and it says base speed of 1.3 seconds. And I saw it on there and I was like, no, we're back.
Hopefully that's just like old database stuff or something.
So. Well, with that, we know what we want GGG to fix. We know what we want GGG to do kind of in game. Where I will wrap us up is with one final question. It is, if you could change or add or remove one thing from PoE 2 today, not counting life, what would it be?
It'd be like a twofold, I guess. So kind of cheat the question a little bit, but it's a twofold for me of uniques / abilities on items, because I think I think abilities on items kill a lot of unique. The way that abilities on items are set right now is just so horrible, in my opinion. Like, and it really shows itself when it comes to uniques, especially like you get a life sprig that's level 78 and only usable by a level 78 character because it has level 18 mana drain on it, and there is nothing you can do about it. And that is just, it feels horrible. And if you decide, oh, I want to make a solar orb build, which is a skill that's only on a staff, and that means not only do you have to try and get a perfect staff that has your plus skills and your spell damage and your fire damage and your cast speed and your crit and whatever else you decide you need, but it also has to have a level 20 solar orb on it so that you can have 5 support gems in your solar orb. Otherwise, you're running 4 support gems in your solar orb. Enjoy. And it just feels really bad. I would love to see them put in something where in my head, and this doesn't mean it's right, this is just my thought process on it. I would love to see, like, okay, let's say I drop a level 78 life sprig. We'll go back to the life sprig. With level 18 mana drain built into it, then I should be able to either click that mana drain and scale it from level 1 to level 18, or it should scale automatically with the level of my character that it's equipped on, whatever. But it needs to be usable from the lowest version of itself up to what it dropped at, right? So if it dropped at a level 18, then I could equip it and use it up to a level 18, but I would still have to get that level 20 if I want to, level 20 mana drain on my life sprig for some reason, something to make skills on items actually usable and viable in the game right now, because I personally feel like they're just not. It's so hard. It's probably exaggerated from the SSF setting that I play in, but I just feel like it's pretty much impossible to get the skills on weapons, that you want, or like get that unique that has the right level skill on it or whatever. And it just feels pretty rough.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that there definitely needs to be something done with the scaling on that stuff, because like you said, the what is the point in dropping, because you can't even farm like leveling uniques, right, in game, right, for other
leveling
characters,
uniques are
they're too high level. That life sprig is level 78, but that life sprig is supposed to be equipable from level 3.
Yep, it's supposed to be a level 3 equipable with +1 to +3 spells, right? So if you get it at low level and you're using it for leveling a alternate character, or you just happen to find one, like, it's amazing. But 99% of them that exist in the game are absolutely useless, right? Because they're too high level on the skill itself. And then leveling uniques in general just feel horrible. There are, like, you play PvE1 and you can find some leveling uniques, slap them on your character, and you're like, cool, I have these really powerful items that actually feel great to use from a low level. Here we go. That doesn't exist in PvE2, right? Low level leveling uniques are generally, pretty much all uniques are generally just not as good as a rare item with good stats. Just end of the day, right? Yeah. There's not a lot of use cases, but especially in leveling, it's just very few and far between anything that's actually usable during the leveling process for a unique. So
yeah, I'm PoE1. I'm slapping on my gold ribbon, my 1,000 ribbons, my 7 league step, and then I'm slapping on
whatever weapon you need.
The flat chaos ring that you can equip at level 1. I'm going to equip 2 of those, so I have 50 flat chaos damage at level 1 on the beach.
Well, that's how it should be, because you should, like, especially if you play through and you get some cool uniques, and then you're like, oh, I want to start a new character, and you can have those uniques on that character, and that character feels powerful because it's not your first character, and you invested in them by giving them these low-level uniques. That's fun. People enjoy that. We like doing that, right? To make a new character and be like, okay, here's some uniques that are low level. Which one's good? Oh, wait, none of them. Like, that just, it feels so bad. They already had like 0 use case, and now they've gone lower than a 0 use case somehow, right? Like, it just, that's the level of skills / the way uniques are themselves is like my biggest, like, please, it needs to be looked at. It needs very, very much to be overhauled. We talked about build diversity and like viable builds and stuff like that. Fixing uniques and making those better just increases that 10x.
Yeah, 1,000% agree. Yeah, I think that if they can nail that in PoE 2, that will help significantly with the ongoing, for some reason people are still talking about a campaign skip. You're never getting it. You're never getting a campaign skip. You're never getting a campaign skip. I don't know how many times I need to say it. You're not going to get one. But that kind of helps solve that problem, right? Is like, if I can twink out my character with those leveling uniques, and I'm like, okay, well, I can clear Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3 as a normal player, not a speedrunner, in an hour and a half, 2 hours. Like, if with leveling uniques I can get to endgame in 4 hours as an average player, then I don't need, like, that's fine.
Yeah, it gets rid of that issue, and like I said, it's just more fun, right? It's like, it's fun to. There's a power fantasy of like having that character, the 0 to hero, right? And then it's like you acquire a bunch of stuff, and it's like your next character, you want them to start off more badass, right? Because you've spent all this time in the game in this league, and so being able to actually give them that power out the gate to let you go faster, but also like have fun doing it, because when I make characters in PvE1 that I buy a bunch of, gear for and I'm zooming, like I'm having fun, like I enjoy it. And there comes to a point where I'm like, okay, now it's time to, switch out some of these for like some rare items, right? Like maybe I take off this, this unique and put on something else that's actually fine, level 40. It's fine, there's a better chess piece or whatever, right? But yeah, we're very, very far from that right now. So I think that is definitely something I would love to see changed.
Yeah, I agree. We're running pretty close to time. I did get this wonderful error message, which I don't know if chat can even see it, but it says an error occurred, which has stopped Streamlabs and caused it to close, but don't worry, you're still streaming, da 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 da. So if I do anything, the stream and recording ends. So I'm going to do my one thing, and then we will wrap up. But I think that my one thing that I would want to add, I don't think there's anything I want to remove right now more than add. I think that I kind of mentioned it earlier. One of the big things that would help the passive tree a lot, because in PoE 2, it's very gear dependent versus PoE 1, where your passive tree really matters a lot. I want masteries in PoE 2. I think that alone could drastically change character balance and allow for a lot more build diversity personally. Just, it doesn't even have to be like as insane, quote unquote, as some of the masteries in PoE 1, because there are some crazy masteries in PoE 1. But like, if I'm investing fully into, even if I'm investing fully into poison, right? That's my niche. I'm playing a poison pathfinder. That's the poison class. There's 5 poison clusters on the tree.
They're all in the exact same area.
And they're all right. So
there might be an Oracle one now that got added.
Maybe, yeah.
Like up on the other side, but that's only if you choose Oracle and you can see it.
Right. And so I can have, if I'm beelining, I can have all of my poison nodes by mid Act 3. And then what do I do to scale my archetype?
Well, unfortunately, you like ailments, and in PoE 2, to scale ailments, you just scale hit damage like everyone else.
It's amazing. Because that's the other thing, is I'm like, in PoE 1, I'm like, okay, I'm going to hit 10,000 poisons. I'm just going to keep ramping poisons, right? And poison duration, and that's going to do it. And then I need a ascendancy with a specific node chosen, every poison node on the tree, and a unique glove and snake bite to hit 10 poisons, which is the maximum you can put on one enemy at a time, unless you have the Spear of Lorata which has a base physical damage of 12. So
Isn't that nice? That was a pretty high number.
And I got it we were doing some cool stuff with it. But I had to get a tier 0 unique ring to be able to play the weapon. So, that's just give me more options in my passive tree when it comes to that stuff would be me.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to see masteries on the tree. I think masteries are awesome from PV1, so that'd be a +1 from me.
Hey, GGG. Masteries on the warrior side, you're so desperate, make that the only way to get life on the tree. Give us 3 15% life masteries. I think that could get you to 1k. I think that could get you your extra 1k life. Surely the ES stackers won't take those too. Surely.
Of course not.
But I think that's all I got, dude. But man, I appreciate you coming on and chatting with me.
Of course.
And we'll have to do it again. And I'm looking forward to freaking out in about a week to what we're gonna get on the 9th. So I'm excited there.
Yeah, it should be pretty good, man. It should be a pretty packed live stream. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, Rat NATO MTX is coming, boys. We're gonna get it, I believe.
Fingers crossed.
My forum post has 3 upvotes. I'm sure we're gonna get it. I'm sure we're gonna get it.
I don't know if I upvoted it yet. Maybe I think I already did, but if not, I'll get in there and get you number 4.
Yeah, do it. That's all it takes. It's just 4. So, all right, brother. I appreciate you. I'll talk to you. I'll see you in your chat tomorrow.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me, brother.
All right, talk to you later, bro.
Peace.